So, Congress of Vienna, Part 2. What were some of the results and some of the effects of the Congress of Vienna? One of the biggest effects was that the British got the slave trade abolished. The British did not abolish, not everywhere abolished slavery, because remember, Congress of Vienna happens 1814. For example, U.S. does not abolish slavery until the Civil War between 1860 and 1864-65. The slave trade, though, is abolished for any member signing the treaties that come out of the Congress of Vienna. Another one is it will keep Europe from breaking out into major wars until 1914. That doesn't mean that you're not going to have wars. You're going to have, for example, the Crimean War. You're going to have wars of unification. In 1848, you're going to have revolutions. You're going to have Italy unified. You're going to have Germany unified, which is going to create the Franco-Prussian War. But getting all of Europe in war, that's one of the goals that they were able to succeed. And one of the reasons was through the concerts of Europe that were developed. Also, we haven't spent a lot of time with Latin America. Remember the Spanish colonies. You had, for example, in South America, you have Simón Bolívar, who will lead revolutions to bring independence to the Latin American countries. In Haiti, Toussaint Louverture will lead the first successful slave uprising, freeing the island of Haiti from French control, and Miguel Hidalgo will be one of the first leaders to get the idea of Mexican independence. So because the Europeans were so busy fighting each other, and the Spanish, remember, were taken over by Napoleon, and the Portuguese also, those colonies, the Spanish and the Portuguese lost their ties to those colonies. So that's some of the success of the Congress of Vienna. Which brings us to, after the Congress of Vienna, what's going to happen? Because what we're going to see is our next unit is going to be the Industrial Revolution. So it's kind of occurring at the same time, but it will really take off after the Congress of Vienna. But what's going to happen from 1814 to basically 1900 in Europe? British and Prussia power will increase. They're going to, as this goes on, Prussia, remember, will become, and it's really important that you guys understand this, Prussia is not Russia. Prussia is Germany. Prussia will eventually unify those German states and become Germany. But Britain and Prussia at this time will begin to increase their power, and then Austria, Russia, and France, using their positions and the way that Britain and Prussia ally, will keep us a balance of power. Russia emerged as a modern power at this time. Europe, as we talked about, liberal, supporting those ideas of the Enlightenment, free press, people have a say in the government, people have rights, constitutional monarchy in a way, are your liberal ideas. But Europe is going to swing to conservatism, the leadership, back to that absolute monarchy idea. But at the same time, you have this new idea of nationalism, where people begin to identify with their country. I'm French, I'm British. But then you're also going to have people like Italy. Italy in 1814 isn't unified, but people begin to think that maybe all the people who are Italian should unify and form a country. The Poles are upset. Nobody asked us. We want to be Poland. We want to be part of Poland. And then European people will begin to demand more democratic reforms. The British Navy will emerge as the most powerful navy of this era, because we will begin also, this period is when you're going to begin, the Europeans are going to go back out and conquer parts of the world. So continuing, So we talked about, and this is on the first sheet, and it's out of order, but you guys can just go back through this. These alliances are what will keep the peace in Europe: the Holy Alliance, the Quadruple Alliance, and the Concert of Europe. All right, so you have that Concert of Europe. Actually, Kathleen, I'm done in about 2 minutes.
Okay.
That keep the peace. And then we have, so keeping the peace, again, this is reviewing keeping the peace, your Holy Alliance, which is Austria, Russia, and Prussia. And they're going to be against revolutions. They are all absolute monarchs. They believe in supporting absolute monarchy. You have your Quadruple Alliance, which at first is going to be Great Britain, Russia, Prussia, Austria. Eventually, as France proves itself, it joins in, and they are to enforce the decisions made at the Congress of Vienna. So, and they are going to be the ones trying to prevent revolution. For example, if the Poles rise, then they would agree to work together to keep these actions enforced. And your Concert of Europe is a meeting of European powers when revolutions break out. So, for example, when Netherlands and Belgium split, you'll have a meeting of these powers. Do we allow this to happen? Is it in our best interest? So, with that, you have this movement, this conservative movement. While it keeps the peace until World War I, it's also with this nationalism and this industrialization that we're going to see. Europe's going to be changing, and while they try and keep the lid on some of the Enlightenment ideas and the ideas coming out of the French Revolution, it's not going to work as well as they want, and it sows the seeds for World War I 100 years later, but it also manages to keep the peace. But Europe's going to be changing radically in this point. Absolute monarchy is going to be challenged. The order of things are going to be challenged. And then once World War I comes up, which we'll see, then this will change everything again.